Look closely. You're not alone in that reflection. Once upon a time, and not so long ago, we had company. Another kind of human walked beside us. They built fires, buried their dead, crafted tools from bone and stone. They sang, they painted. They dreamed beneath the same indifferent stars. They weren't monsters. They weren't myths. They were human, just written in a different dialect of flesh. And then, something happened. Climate shifted. Populations thinned. One species spread, the other faded. The mirror cracked, and history told itself only one version of the story. But what if it hadn't? What if the Ice Age spared them, and they survived, adapted, evolved alongside us? Two species, two ways of thinking, emotion versus logic, instinct versus precision. Would we have shared the Earth, or spent eternity proving which of us deserved to rule it? This is the world that might have been, the mirror that never shattered. "40,000 years ago, the world was cold and crowded. Two species of human walked this earth. Us, Homo sapiens, clever tool makers with a dangerous curiosity, and them, the Neanderthals. Broad, powerful, deliberate. They were not monsters, not myths, but another form of human. They hunted the same animals, felt the same hunger, and looked up at the same stars. They buried their dead with care. They carved tools and ornaments with precision. Somewhere between ice and fire, they even created art. Simple at first, but unmistakably intentional. We like to imagine ourselves as the beginning of everything that mattered, but we were never alone in being intelligent. For tens of millennia, there were two kinds of human minds shaping this planet. Sometimes we traded, sometimes we fought, and sometimes we shared more than we realized. Modern science has confirmed what myths could never say, that our bloodlines crossed. Even now, inside each of us, a quiet echo of Neanderthal DNA remains. It whispers from our bones and nerves, influencing our immunity, our sleep, even our emotions. The proof is written in us, that we were never pure, never solitary, never just one kind of human. But somewhere along the timeline, something changed. Maybe the climate turned too cruel for two civilizations to endure. Maybe competition grew sharper as resources faded. Maybe the story was written not in war, but in slow attrition. One people dwindling while the other multiplied. And then, silence. The Neanderthals disappeared. No great battle, no extinction event carved in legend. Just an empty cave, a broken tool, and a fire that went out forever. Yet evolution never answers why. It only leaves questions, the kind that echo through time. What if they hadn't vanished? What if both branches of humanity had survived? Two kinds of intelligence, two ways of thinking, two civilizations growing side by side. Would we have learned from each other, or feared the reflection too much to let it live? Because in the end, the story of the Neanderthals isn't about the past. It's about the road not taken, and the version of humanity that might have stood beside us if the mirror of evolution had never shattered. The Ice Age ended, but not for everyone. In the crucible of glacial retreat, both species survived the bottleneck that could have erased one forever. Homo sapiens, lean and restless, followed the melting glaciers northward, chasing open plains, abundant herds, and the light of long summers. Their curiosity burned like the sun, driving them to explore, to trade, to invent, a species wired for movement and discovery. Neanderthals, broader and more robust, shaped by frost and shadow, lingered in the high valleys and shadowed forests. Their minds thrived on careful calculation and deep foresight. They became masters of endurance, crafting tools with meticulous precision, carving shelters from stone and ice, and learning to listen to the rhythms of a harsher world. As centuries melted into millennia, two humanities unfolded, each a mirror of potential, each a path of possibility. We became children of open plains, sunlight, and endless horizons. Our languages carried laughter and metaphor. Our hands shaped clay, metal, and wood into instruments of creativity. Our cities rose from trade, curiosity, and the restless desire to know the world beyond our borders. They became keepers of stone and shadow, of rhythm and pattern. Their music resonated with the wind through ice-carved canyons. Their tonal languages reflected the cadence of mountains and rivers. Discipline and endurance were their birthright. Patience, their currency. Their art was etched into bone, their stories carved into walls that would last for generations. Physically, we drifted apart, slender limbs against broad shoulders, quick reflexes against deliberate precision. But culturally, we soared together. Knowledge flowed between us, slowly at first, then like rivers converging. Ideas, tools, and philosophies crossed borders, blending curiosity with wisdom. Two civilizations emerged, bound by origin, yet divided by temperament. Not enemies, not allies, but reflections of the human potential itself. One bright and expansive, the other measured and enduring. Together they painted a new spectrum of what it meant to be human, proving that the story of humanity was never meant to be singular. It was multiplicity itself, varied, complex, and endlessly fascinating. They say two heads are better than one. But what happens when those heads belong to two species, thinking differently, dreaming differently, yet both daring to call themselves human? Homo sapiens, storytellers, gamblers, builders of myths. Our genius was chaos, unpredictable, restless, incandescent. We invented fire not just to survive, but to illuminate our imaginations. We painted emotions on cave walls, carved music into bone, and built myths that made sense of a world that often made no sense at all. Innovation thrived in our disorder. Disaster too, but chaos was our compass. Neanderthals, in contrast, were architecture given flesh. Every tool honed with precision, every movement deliberate, every shelter, every ritual, every societal rule engineered to withstand time itself. No temples to gods that never answered. No meaningless ornamentation. Logic flowed through their veins like cold, steady rivers. Humanity distilled to clarity, efficiency, and endurance. Where we improvised, they strategized. Where we dreamed, they calculated. Where we raced toward risk, they measured the steps to avoid it. Our warmth fueled emotion, creativity, and impulsive leaps. Theirs fueled survival, stability, and meticulous mastery of environment. As both civilizations expanded, their contrasts shaped the very planet. Sapiens built sprawling cities of trade, art, and rumor. Neanderthals carved stone citadels and terraced fortresses that defied time and weather. Sapiens wove culture from chaos. Neanderthals forged systems from order, and yet they were never truly separate. Ideas crossed borders like rivers carving valleys, tools were shared, and every encounter carried subtle lessons. Emotion could guide logic, logic could temper passion. And as centuries passed, the question became unavoidable. Which intelligence would dominate the future? The warm-blooded dreamer, impulsive, creative, dangerously brilliant? Or the cold-blooded engineer, measured, precise, inexorably enduring? Perhaps the real answer wasn't in choosing one over the other. Perhaps the future belonged to the dialogue between the two, to a world where chaos met order, passion tempered by reason, and dreams built upon foundations strong enough to last millennia.
Our cities grow, where wisdom guides the seeds we sow.
By 10,000 BCE, humanity was no longer a single species. Two branches of the same lineage walked the planet side by side, sharing air, rivers, and soil, yet never fully blending, never fully understanding one another. Cities rose like twin reflections of the same dream, shaped by instinct, culture, and survival. Homo sapiens built open streets and sprawling marketplaces, places alive with chatter, music, and debate. Their temples reached skyward, not just to honor gods, but to manifest imagination itself. Their cities were chaotic, beautiful, and unpredictable, a mirror of the restless mind that built them. Neanderthals, in contrast, constructed fortresses of stone, methodical workshops, and meticulous archives. Every street aligned with purpose, every building optimized for function, every tool cataloged with care. Their settlements endured winter, fire, and siege. Monuments to calculation, endurance, and foresight. Trade became the bridge between these worlds. Obsidian blades glinted alongside finely woven furs. Bronze tools moved hand to hand. Knowledge, both practical and philosophical, crossed the borders between them, but peace was never guaranteed. Prejudice lingered like a shadow in crowded alleys. Fear whispered behind guarded doors. Homo sapiens eyed Neanderthals as others, creatures of strength and stoicism to admire and at times envy. Neanderthals measured sapiens' exuberance with suspicion, aware that impulsive genius could burn or build with equal force. Cooperation was necessary, but trust was earned slowly, often grudgingly. From these interactions, hybrid cultures emerged, neither fully sapiens nor fully Neanderthal, yet carrying threads of both. A bi-human empire flourished where trade, diplomacy, and shared knowledge aligned. Elsewhere, valleys smoldered with the embers of war, fueled by fear, misunderstanding, and ambition. Two species shaping one world, entwined in tension and cooperation, creation and conflict. The planet bore the marks of both, cities alive with emotion, fortresses humming with logic. And in every interaction, one question haunted the generations. Would these differences ultimately unite humanity, or tear the planet apart? By 2000 BCE, the world had grown intricate, layered, and fragile. Two species, two philosophies, intertwined yet divided, now entered an age of machines, fire, and metallurgy. Civilization itself became a chessboard, and every move carried weight beyond a single generation. Neanderthals prized stability above all. Their cities were fortified, built to last centuries. Populations were steady, carefully managed. Knowledge was meticulously archived, transmitted through codified rituals and libraries of stone and clay. Every invention served purpose. Every law preserved order. Every decision measured to reduce risk. Their society was slow, deliberate, and unyielding, a fortress of logic in a volatile world. Homo sapiens thrived on expansion. New cities sprang like sparks across fertile valleys. Inventions multiplied faster than any bureaucracy could record them. Markets, trade routes, and networks of knowledge spanned continents. Restless minds demanded novelty, risk, and exploration, ever-reaching, ever-ambitious. Where Neanderthals calculated, sapiens improvised. Where Neanderthals conserved, sapiens reinvented. The result was a mirror image tension. Cooperation existed, but suspicion was never far. Trade agreements faltered under whispered accusations. Cultural propaganda magnified differences. Look at them, rigid, slow, incapable of passion, one side would claim. See them, impulsive, careless, reckless, the other retorted. Every narrative shaped perception, and perception shaped reality. Espionage thrived in this shadow world. Silent observers moved under moonlight, mapping routines, decoding habits, and cataloging weaknesses. Knowledge itself became currency, trust a rare and precious commodity. No one fired the first universal weapon, yet. But in every council, every negotiation, every whispered rumor, fear ruled. Fear of the familiar. Fear of ourselves mirrored in another species. We saw in them our potential for destruction, disciplined and patient. And in ourselves, we glimpsed their strengths, endurance, foresight, the chilling power of careful calculation. The Cold War of cousins was never just a war of arms. It was a war of perception, a war of mirrors, a struggle not only for survival, but for the very definition of what it meant to be human, challenged, reflected, and tested against a species both like and unlike ourselves. And then, catastrophe arrived. Perhaps it was a sky-darkening pandemic, invisible yet ruthless, spreading faster than any city walls could contain. Perhaps a cosmic rock, blazing across the heavens, hurtled toward the planet with the indifference of the universe itself. Or perhaps it was a creation of our own hands, a machine, an experiment, a network of fire and steel spiraling beyond control. Whatever the cause, the result was the same. The world no longer had room for two separate species, Homo sapiens and Neanderthals, divided for tens of thousands of years by temperament. Philosophy and habit now faced the same ultimate threat: extinction. The centuries of rivalry, suspicion, and subtle propaganda suddenly seemed trivial compared to the stakes of survival. Borders dissolved in urgency. Cities that once celebrated separation now opened gates for mutual aid. Armies that once patrolled contested valleys found themselves patrolling the sickbeds and shelters of strangers who were, in essence, their closest cousins. Fear persisted. Old grudges die hard, and mistrust lingered like a shadow over every council and campfire. But survival demanded dialogue, compromise, and courage unlike any seen before. For the first time, both species had to confront the unthinkable. Could empathy reach beyond the self? Beyond immediate kin, immediate tribe? Beyond the familiar, the habitual? The reflection in the mirror that had defined rivalry for millennia? Could we recognize the other as equally human and equally vital to the survival of the species? Every decision became a moral and practical test. Cooperation was not merely ideal, it was essential. Shared knowledge, combined ingenuity, and complementary strengths became the tools to avert annihilation. The dreamers and the logicians, the impulsive and the deliberate, the warm-blooded and the enduring, all had to act as one, or all would fall. The answer would determine not just who lived, but what humanity could ultimately become. Would our legacy be a species fractured by ego and philosophy, or a new humanity, tempered in crisis, able to integrate difference and capable of empathy across the mirror of evolution itself? The world held its breath, and so did both species.
Get the animals to higher ground.
The crisis passed, but what became of humanity? Three futures stretched before us like divergent rivers, each shaped by choice, circumstance, and the capacity to see beyond oneself. Millennia of coexistence, rivalry, and reflection now culminated in decisions that would define not just survival, but the essence of what it meant to be human. Scenario A: integration. Sapiens and Neanderthals merged, their minds and cultures intertwining in ways both expected and astonishing. A renaissance of art, science, and empathy unfolded. Cities became living mosaics, blending architectural styles and philosophies. Festivals honored dual heritage, and rituals reflected centuries of knowledge once kept secret or hoarded. Ideas flowed freely. Mathematics, inspired by logic, met creativity born of intuition. Medicine, engineering, and agriculture reached heights neither species could have achieved alone. This hybrid humanity grew resilient, adaptive, and profoundly self-aware, learning to temper impulsive brilliance with deliberate foresight. Scenario B: separation. Two civilizations continued side by side, maintaining distance while acknowledging mutual strength. Borders endured, yet open trade, knowledge exchanges, and selective alliances created pockets of collaboration. Wars became rare, conflicts mediated through diplomacy or shared councils. Each species pursued its strengths. Sapiens expanding imagination, exploration, and innovation. Neanderthals preserving stability, efficiency, and endurance. Rivalry never vanished entirely, but respect tempered aggression. The world became a patchwork of parallel societies, distinct yet interwoven by necessity and shared history. Scenario C: collapse. Fear triumphed over understanding. One species overwhelmed the other through war, famine, or environmental manipulation. The planet bore scars of conflict, abandoned cities, charred fields, and forgotten monuments. Survivors whispered legends of a lost cousin, a reflection that never returned, haunting future generations with the memory of what might have been. Civilization fractured, knowledge was lost. Potential squandered. The mirror of humanity cracked, leaving only fragments of what could have been whole. Through these possibilities, one lesson emerges. Evolution is not merely the survival of the fittest. It is the survival of the wisest, those capable of empathy, foresight, collaboration, and courage in the face of the unfamiliar. And in the end, the measure of humanity is not found in physical strength, ingenuity, or dominance, but in the choices we make when confronting our own reflection, the mirror that holds both the promise and the peril of what we could become. Maybe the Neanderthals never truly left us. Their DNA still whispers inside ours, a subtle undercurrent in the rhythm of our hearts, a colder, calmer voice that tempers our fire, restrains impulsive decisions, and balances ambition with prudence. In the recesses of our biology, in the patterns of our behavior, in the way we assess risk or temper desire, their legacy endures. Every risk we take, every choice we make, carries a shadow of that mirrored cousin. It is a quiet reminder of what was, what could have been, and the paths that might still shape our species. Their endurance, their logic, their measured insight. It courses silently through our neurons, nudging us toward reflection when instinct demands action, and toward foresight when imagination races ahead. We are not alone in our lineage. We are a story written by two hands, two minds, two spirits intertwined across millennia. A story of rivalry and cooperation, of curiosity and calculation, of passion and reason. Every cultural achievement, every technological leap, every moral reflection is a dialogue with that other humanity, a conversation across time with a species both like and unlike ourselves. And so the question lingers, haunting and profound. Would we destroy our reflection, seeing only difference, weakness, or threat? Or, at last, would we learn from it, embracing the lessons encoded in our shared heritage, understanding that the measure of humanity lies not in dominance, but in empathy, foresight, and the courage to recognize ourselves in another? In the quiet moments, when we gaze into mirrors, walk through cities, or debate the future, that reflection waits. And it asks us the same question it has for tens of thousands of years. Who are we, really? Alone? Or as part of a continuum written by two species, two visions, one story?